What's up, Jets Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicy Jet Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rooney, and the offseason doesn't stop. We've got Jets news up and down all over the place, and this is really the pivotal point in the offseason where it all starts, because there's really only 3 NFL games left before that's it. No more football, and the real offseason begins. So what I want to do is take you through the schedule of what's about to happen over the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot going on that pertains to the Jets and pertains to the NFL. And the offseason and picking players and retaining players and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to go through that schedule. Then I want to talk through some of the different changes that happened to the Jets coaching staff as of Friday night, the classic New York Jets Friday night news dump, where they're hoping no one cares because it's Friday night going into the weekend, but we care. That's what the Juicy Jet Podcast is here for. And then finally, we will go through a little bit of news in the defensive coordinator search. It's kind of interesting, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, I'll give you my picks for this weekend, because this is it. Last 2 games before we decide who the 2 Super Bowl teams are going to be. So with that, let's start off with the schedule that's going to happen over these next couple weeks. So obviously, we got 2 huge games tomorrow, the divisional round, the conference championship round of the playoffs. I almost forgot what those were because it's been so long since I've cared or need to be involved in one of those. But you've got the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams. So we'll talk a little bit about how I think about those games. But the big pieces on the schedule has a lot to do with the college football players right now. So there's a couple things going on this week that will get you excited, start to get the blood pumping around which players might be some ones that are standing out and players that we should pick in the upcoming NFL draft. But those 2 things are both the East-West Shrine Bowl, which is going on this week. As long as this storm doesn't slow anything down, I don't think it will since it's in Texas, so we should be okay there. And then, of course, you got the Senior Bowl, which is probably the biggest one, down in Mobile, Alabama, going on this week as well. So that's going to be a good chance to see some folks who maybe aren't the biggest names that we've been talking about, like Fernando Mendoza is not going to one of these events. These top picks aren't going to one of these events because they don't need to show off this stuff. It's the guys you're going to be picking in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds that are going to be showing themselves off at these events. Typically, every single team has representatives at these events. You're doing interviews, medical, you're watching them play in individual drills, practice, and then, of course, there's a game as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see some of the stuff coming out of there. Obviously, we've got a good amount of picks, especially later in the draft. So it's going to be a good time for Darren Muji and his staff to see who are some, good players we can find back there. You know, for me, I don't really have any good examples of what that would look like from last season because we really didn't have any of the late round picks actually hit. Like a Tyler Barron didn't hit. A Kiko Malagoa, I wouldn't say hit. Maybe you can say someone like a Malachi Moore kind of hit, but he was a little bit earlier in the draft. So maybe that's a good example. But how do you find that diamond in the rough? How do you find that guy late in the draft that will be a contributor for 4 or 5 years for your team? Maybe it's on special teams. That can help and be some depth because God knows this football team needs some depth. So it's a great time to find some of those players. From there, the biggest date I think we have to care about, obviously besides the Super Bowl, but we don't typically care because the Jets aren't in it, so it doesn't really matter. But on February 17th is when you get to start franchise tagging players. So that means if the Jets decide they want to franchise tag either AVT or Breece Hall, most likely Breece Hall, that's the time they can start, and then they have up until March 3rd to officially put that tag on them. So I imagine they're going to try to go back and forth, say, look, we're not getting rid of you, so you can either sign a long-term deal with us, and here is the proposed structure and contract of that deal, or we're going to place a tag on you, and you're going to play with us next year. So I think that's going to be the really interesting back and forth we're going to get over these next couple weeks. And then after that, you get February 23rd to March 2nd is the NFL Scouting Combine. Huge event. This is where everybody goes. It's medicals, it's interviews, it's all the good stuff. Obviously, they're just running around in shorts and a T-shirt, but at least you get to meet the players and kind of get in their heads and understand who they are as people. So that's going to be a really big event. So those are the big ones coming up. Obviously, we'll talk about free agency and the draft a little bit down the road. Those are going to be more towards the middle of March, so we got time for that. But these different college football events are really big ones to pay attention to. So that's where we're at in terms of the schedule. Now let's talk a little bit about the New York Jets. So the New York Jets made some big moves last night. And actually, I don't think they really happened last night. I think it's just when we found out about them. I think these guys have known for weeks that they were gone. I've personally known that a couple of these guys were going to be gone because they were so goddamn bad that there was no choice. Aaron Glenn had no choice but to get rid of these guys. So let's start off with the defense. So obviously you get rid of Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, with 3 games left to play. So we've been on the hunt for a new defensive coordinator for a while. Within that defensive coaching staff, you also get rid of the D-line coach, Eric Washington, our linebacker coach, Aaron Curry, assistants, Alonzo Escalante and Roosevelt Williams, and then the DB coach, Dre Bly. So my thoughts on these. Our defense was so horrible that there was no choice but to let go of some of these guys. And you look at some of the positions that these coaches were let go of, our D-line was terrible. We couldn't get any pass rush. We couldn't cause any turnovers. We weren't wreaking havoc. So I'm not surprised Eric Washington's gone. And from what we've learned about him when we initially hired him, he's a guy who's been around with Steve Wilks for a while, and it was a little bit more old school, and maybe the game is kind of passing him by a little bit. So not surprised to see that one. Aaron Curry, if you guys remember who Aaron Curry was, while I was growing up, he was drafted like number 3 overall or something like that to the Raiders, and was one of the biggest busts of a draft pick that I've seen when I was growing up. To see our linebackers play as poorly as they did this past year, I'm not shocked. I'm like, Aaron Curry wasn't good either. So why the heck did we hire this guy in the first place? So I'm not surprised about that one. I mean, Jamie and Sherwood looked lost. Quincy Williams was an all-pro linebacker, looked horrible, and now he's going to be gone. So just a disaster there. And then the big one that kind of hurts my heart a little bit is Dre Bly. The reason why I'm a little sad about Dre Bly is because he was such a good player to watch growing up. Especially I remember him at the end during his Lions days, where I just thought he was so good. He was on the Rams too, when they were one of the best teams in the league with Kurt Warner and all that. I was like, that team was so awesome. I used to try to get him on all my Madden franchises. But we had a defensive back room that didn't have a single interception the entire year. It was way too bad for him to stay. You hear stuff from other Jets content creators who are more involved with the behind the scenes of the team. Maybe they have some connections to people that work there. And you just hear things about some of these folks that, there was a lot of lack of communication, lack of preparedness, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty interesting, but not surprising when your defense is that bad. So I am not shocked about any of these. And you're also bringing in a new defensive coordinator, which means he was probably going to get rid of these guys anyway. So those are the big ones on defense. On offense, you had some big ones as well. I'll start with the most obvious one, the QB coach, Charles London. He gets fired. No one liked him from the instant we hired him. The instant we hired him, we knew it was a bad hire. Obviously, you wanted to be optimistic, but this guy was a running back and a running back's coach his entire life. Why are we hiring him to be the quarterback's coach? And then you watch these quarterbacks play, and you're watching Justin Fields. He looks lost. He's the worst year of his career. Even Tyrod Taylor didn't look as good as I thought he might. And then Brady Cook was just an absolute disaster. So this guy was not able to develop anybody. So no doubt in my mind, Charles London had to go. That was an easy one. One I was a little surprised about is the second one. Passing game coordinator Scott Turner. The offense was really tough to judge this year because of the quarterback play and how bad it was. So I don't know. That's an interesting one. I think it was just something to shake up the room just because we couldn't get the passing game going at all. And Scott Turner, he's a veteran guy. He's going to get picked up very quickly. But, I can't be mad about any of these moves. The team was so bad that if we want to start fresh with some of these guys, let's start fresh. That's totally fine with me. But the big one that came out of this, Tanner Engstrand. So he didn't get fired. But it sounds like, and these are rumors, I'm not sure yet. This is what the beat writers are saying. We haven't heard from Aaron Glenn or the actual New York Jets yet, but it sounds like he got demoted. So I'm curious what that means. Does that mean we're out looking for a new offensive coordinator? Does that mean that he's still going to call the plays, but he's going to have, an assistant that's help? I don't really know what that means right now. But it sounds like he is not in the greatest spot. Now, for me, I personally like Tanner Engstrand. I think having a young coordinator who can grow and develop, I liked Mike LaFleur a lot. For example, I thought he was a good coordinator for us, and unfortunately the team sucked, so someone had to go because Zach Wilson was terrible, and Woody Johnson found him as the guy that we were going to fire. And it sounds like he might actually get a head coaching job with the Cardinals potentially. But I see that in Tanner Engstrand, and it seemed like there were some plays out there that I really liked. I thought he called some good plays where people were open. It's just our quarterbacks couldn't get him the ball. But then I also think about how good our offensive line was, and then our running game isn't where I wanted it to be. Or we still don't know how to use Breece Hall in the passing game, which makes absolutely no sense to me. There's not a single coordinator we've ever had that can understand how to use Breece Hall, which just drives me nuts. So once again, we were so bad I can't be mad at it. It's just I'm interested to see where they go with the Tanner Engstrand thing and who they bring in, because they must have someone that they're like, hey, this is a guy that we're going to pull in and either be our offensive coordinator or work with Tanner and have like kind of a joint committee thing. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all goes. And then on top of all of this, you got the defensive coordinator hire. We've heard no news since we got the list of candidates that we interviewed for the first time until today. Today, the big news coming out, and I think the reason why we found out about a lot of these firings is because we were close to hiring a defensive coordinator. It turns out Wink Martindale is flying to New York to meet with Aaron Glenn today. Now, for me, the two candidates that stood out the most was definitely Jim Leonhard. He was my number one. Unfortunately, or fortunately for him, he's in the AFC Championship game, so he can't interview this week. So sometimes that hurts these guys because then all these guys who are off can go interview. So like Wink Martindale can do whatever he wants right now. So I don't know. Wink freaks me out a little bit. Now, I think he'll have moments where he's really good and maybe the defense wins us a game because he likes to wreak havoc. He's very aggressive. And in his time with the Giants, forced a lot of turnovers. He didn't do the same thing with Michigan. With Michigan, it was a whole totally different story. So I'm not sure which Wink Martindale we're getting. I also know he's got a fiery personality. How is that going to mesh with Aaron Glenn? I don't know enough about both their backgrounds to see if they've worked together before. I don't think they have. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like. So I'm very nervous. And the other piece to it is we just did this same thing. We hired Steve Wilks, who is an older defensive mind, who has a more blitzing, attacking front or whatever. And now we're going to do the same thing with Wink. We're going to get the old man in the room to come work with us again. And I get it. He did well with Baltimore, but that was like 10 years ago. So that part makes me really nervous, is that we're not learning from what we did previously. And we're just getting a guy that we know what he is, and he might not work. Well, on the other hand, you could get, a hot young coordinator like a Jim Leonhard, at least wait for him and see if he wants to work here. And who knows, maybe he told the Jets, I had my first interview, I don't really want to come here. And he'll go work for the Packers as a defensive coordinator, which I think would be great for the Packers. So I don't know. I'm very, very tentative about Wink Martindale. Listening to a lot of Jets fans, I think the ones who don't dive as much into what Michigan did, maybe some of the film and all that kind of stuff, those guys are like, yes, let's get a big name like Wink. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great pull for Aaron Glenn. The people who are in the film and like really care about watching Michigan football and all that stuff are like, oh boy, this is a big mistake we're making here, and it's not something that's that exciting. So I sit kind of in the middle. I'll see how it plays out. Either way, Glenn's in big trouble. Now, this is my last point on the coaching, on all these coaching moves and things like that. I still don't get the plan. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji sit up there and say, we have a vision. We have this big, beautiful vision of what this team is going to be like. We're never going to have a year like this again. So, Aaron, was the vision to hire all these guys and then fire like half your coaching staff in the first year, including both your coordinators? Is that the vision you were looking to? Is that what we were looking to put together here? So that's why I think this vision thing is it's like just bullshit. Like, I don't understand this vision. I don't think they understand the vision. I think the vision changes every 5 minutes, and they're panicking right now. And I'm panicking right now because I'm going to have to watch it and deal with it next year. Now, I'm not going to freak out completely until I see how this offseason plays out. I want to see who the quarterback is. I want to see who this defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator are going to be. I want to see who do we draft? Who are these signings in free agency? What happens with Breece Hall? What happens with AVT? I think those are the big things top of my mind right now. So I'm not going to make these rash, crazy outlandish like, oh, we're going 2 and whatever, 4-15 next year. I'm not going to say that till I see what the team looks like. But man, your vision does not look good right now because you're going to enter 2026, like the actual 2026 season, on an immediate hot seat. Maybe that's not fair, but you were on the hottest of hot seats because you put out just an incompetent product that no one can get behind. So I'm very frustrated. I imagine most of Jets Nation's very frustrated. The one good thing is that we didn't fire Aaron Glenn. The reason why I'm saying it's good is because everybody else fired their coaches this year. A third of the league fired their coaches. So there's no way we would have gotten any of these top guys because there's so many other options for them. Like Harbaugh, of course, was going to go to somewhere like the Giants. Jeff Hafley goes to the Dolphins. You've got Mike McCarthy now going to the Steelers. Jesse Minter going to the Ravens. I know we weren't ever going to get Robert Saleh back again, but he goes to the Titans because he was technically a hot candidate, which I still don't understand. If you want to see my thoughts on that, go to my TikTok and listen to it. So I think we would have been like scraping at the bottom here. But I think next year, I think less coaches will be fired because there were so many that turned over this year that hopefully if, well, of course I want Aaron Glenn to do well because that means the team does well and he sticks around. But if he doesn't, hopefully that means that maybe there's only 3 to 5 openings and we have a better chance of getting a good coach. So I don't know, as much as we were all screaming to fire Aaron Glenn, it kind of worked out that we didn't. Otherwise you're going to end up with like Arthur Smith as your coach. And that's the last thing any of us want. So, all right, let me cool down. That's it on my coaching talk, Aaron Glenn talk, and all that. So let's see. Let's end this pretty quickly. I don't want to keep everybody too long here. Let's talk about these games this weekend. First of all, God, I can't believe the Patriots are back in the AFC Championship game. Do you know for the past like 17 years, there's been 3 teams that have been in every single AFC Championship game? It's the Patriots, the Chiefs, and fun fact, the third is the Jets. That's amazing. So, yeah, it's out of control. I can't believe they're back, but they're a good team. What are you going to do? So here are my, I'll give you my head picks and my heart picks because I've got 2 different trains of thought. Let's do the NFC first. So the NFC, we've got what I think should be an awesome game. I'm so excited about it. The Seahawks and the Rams. I think this is the rubber match. I think they went 1-1 this year against each other, and they're playing again. I think these are by far 2 of the best teams in the league. So I think they got the right 2 teams in the final here for the NFC. My heart, man, I'm really got to think about this. I keep flip-flopping. So I am rooting for Sam Darnold. I really want Sam to go to the Super Bowl. I think that would be such a cool story. He's such a good guy. I wish he worked out here with the Jets. He never would have. Everyone stopped making fun of the Jets for letting him go. He never would have survived here. And guess what? The people who say we could have got him again, he was never coming back to New York. So we can all get rid of that. That's not a thing. Let's be happy that he's worked out and he's good. Go make fun of the Vikings for letting him go when he was actually good. Go make fun of the Panthers for letting him and Baker go. Go make fun of the Niners who could have had Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback instead of injured Brock Purdy for half the year. So I don't know. I think you can get off our lawn. I mean, he would not be the Sam Darnold he is today if he stayed with the Jets. So I'm rooting for Sam Darnold to win. I want him to win, but in my mind, it's like Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Devontae Adams. I just feel so good about the Rams that I'm really, really torn. So we're going to go with the heart pick on this one. We're going to say the Seahawks move on, even though I picked the Rams at the beginning of the season to make it to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go Seahawks. And then in the AFC Championship game, I never really feel bad for other teams because I don't really care. My team is horrible. Everyone else is lucky that they even win more than 7 games in a year. So I hardly feel bad for teams. I do feel kind of bad for the Broncos and the fact that Bo Nix got hurt. He's been so clutch at the end of games this year, and for him to win that game against Buffalo and then break his ankle, and now he's out for the season when he's about to go into probably what was his dream as a child to play to potentially go to a Super Bowl, that sucks. That really sucks. So now I got to put all my eggs in the Jared Stidham basket and hope he can do it. So my heart pick obviously is the Broncos. I really want the Broncos to win. I can't stand to see the Patriots go to another Super Bowl. It's just the worst case scenario humanly possible. I can't believe it. I can't believe they're back. And I have to put it all on Jared Stidham. My hope here is the way this game plays out is that the Broncos defense steps up. And Drake May did not have a great game last week against the Texans, but that's another really good defense. But it was also raining and slippery and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping the home field advantage helps them out. I'm hoping Sean Payton can scheme up some really good plays for Jared Stidham where he is not going to be someone that loses them the game, kind of like CJ Stroud did last week. So I'm hoping he can hold the fort. But I think my head pick is the Patriots. I mean, man, what a lucky break that they get to play against Jared Stidham to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, That would have been a tough game against Bo Nix. I don't think Bo Nix is a great quarterback by any means, but, relying on a backup quarterback in his first start of the year in the AFC Championship game, that's a tough one to overcome for the Broncos. So I'm going to go Seahawks, Patriots, Super Bowl. I'm so tired of these. Either way, Patriots, Seahawks I've seen before. Patriots, Rams I've seen a million times. I don't want to see these teams anymore. Oh, my God. What are you going to do? So go Broncos. Jarrett Stidham. Watch. Jarrett Stidham's going to win this game. Probably win Super Bowl MVP. Then the Jets are going to pay him a 7-year, $500 million deal to be their starting quarterback, and it's going to be an absolute disaster. That's actually the most likely scenario of what's going to happen this weekend. So we're going Seahawks, Patriots. We'll see what happens, but let's root like hell. Hate watch is in full swing for the Denver Broncos. Well, I appreciate everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed. We've got a massive snowstorm coming tomorrow, so I'm just praying that the power doesn't go out. If the power goes out, that's going to be brutal during these huge games going on. And there's only 3 games left in the entire season, so enjoy the 2 games. If you could please like, rate, subscribe, review, follow, all the good things that would help out the visibility here, that'd be fantastic. It's at JuicyJet25 across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And thanks all for joining. I'll be putting out content the rest of the week like always, and I'll probably continue doing these on Saturdays. This seems to be a good day to get these out. So appreciate everybody listening. Enjoy the games, and I will talk to you soon. And go Broncos.